This is a piece of lead. I could melt it, put it in this cup, and stick my finger into it. First, though, I would dip it in water and then quickly dip it into the molten lead. But you know what? There are limits to what I'm willing to do, even to demonstrate chemistry. Besides which, it's been done before. Adam and Jamie did it on Mythbusters in a classic episode. But the reason that I'm talking about this is because it was this science experiment that was shown to the future King Edward VII when he was a youngster. His parents, Prince Albert and Queen Victoria, thought that he needed some education. He wasn't much for learning. And they sent him on a trip to Edinburgh University, where Professor Playfair showed him around the chemistry labs. And I said, "You want to see something neat?" And the prince said, "Yes." So Playfair melted some lead and poured it over the hand of one of his assistants, who had previously, of course, quickly dipped it into water, shook it off, and then put it into the molten lead. And this is the way that Prince Edward learned about an effect we know as the Leidenfrost Effect. And the name is due to a German physician who first noticed this. So what is the Leidenfrost effect? If you take a very, very hot surface and you put water on that surface, instead of the water immediately evaporating, it forms beads that skitter above that surface. And this is the way that it is usually explained. You see that what happens is that the tremendous amount of heat vaporizes a little bit of the water, turns it into steam, and the drop of water floats on top of the steam. So what does this have to do with dipping lead, first finger into water and then into molten lead? Because when you have a little bit of moisture on your finger and you dip it into the molten lead, the water will immediately form a thin layer of water vapor that insulates the finger from the hot lead. Now, of course, you don't want to dilly-dally. You don't keep your finger inside of the hot lead. You do this very quickly, and that is what Adam and Jamie on Mythbusters demonstrated. It is interesting that this is the way that the young Prince Edward was supposed to learn about chemistry. Turns out that it really didn't turn him on. There were other things that turned Edward on. Food was one of these. He loved food, and he became quite portly because of this by the time that he became King Edward VII. And as you can see, he had a rather impressive girth because of all the food that he had consumed. And that made some activities difficult for him, because he was not only into food, he was also into women. He was a philanderer galore. And it turned out that as he got more and more overweight, he had difficulty performing some of these activities. And then he had a specially designed chair made, known as the love chair. And as you can see, there's a place there where he would put his feet, and one lady would lie on the couch. And interesting enough, there was another cushioned pillow on the bottom. No one knows exactly how that was to work, but the idea was that he could have sex with two women at the same time. So that's the story of King Edward. Unfortunately, he didn't really get interested in chemistry because of the Leidenfrost effect. He was shown as a young 18-year-old. But as I showed you, he did develop interest in other areas of chemistry.